I'm so tempted to use this line, even though I'm sure somebody have used it before me. 10 years ago, when the Manama Dialogue started, it started with IISS, and now it is ISIS all over. And it is not wrong to say that, because ISIS deserves that, particularly for us, the Arabs. The danger of ISIS is real, and we need to spend much time understanding ISIS and understanding its root causes, because if we do not do that, 10 years later, many of us will be living in an ISIS country, in an ISIS territory somehow or another. Because ISIS is not an army, as Mr. Fajal explained a while ago. It's an idea that feeds in our failures. The Iraqi finance minister, Mr. Hoshyar Zipari, said that yesterday in the conference, that he said, we were afraid of a failed state. Now I'm afraid of a failed region. We see the failed region in many parts of the Arab world today. Why we fail to see the tree of ISIS growing around us for the last 10 years? Because there are ISIS elements in all of us in the Arab world. In most Arab states, with the absence of the following: rule of law, democracy, human rights values, and interest in a better life for all. The absence of all of that is similar to what ISIS stands for. So we share those elements with ISIS, so ISIS should not be a surprise to us. We share some of ISIS ideas. Up to 2011, we only were concerned with the security matters around the issue of Iran, Iraq, and whatever branch from both, like the nuclear issue, Iran's intervention in the region, war in Iraq, Al-Qaeda there, Iraq after American withdrawal. All those issues were discussed repeatedly in the various rounds of IISS meetings here in Manama. Somehow, with our failures in most of the previous issues, the tree of ISIS was growing in Iraq and later in Syria and in other parts of the Arab world, and it continued to branch out. Yes, it is a radical form of Islam. We all agree on that. Some of us, many, say it's not Islam. No, it is a radical form of Islam. But every society has a radical movement or had a radical nuclear ideas, whether it is around religion or around race. But those movements, they always stay small, insignificant, under the limitations and the rule of the governing law in those countries. Sometimes they make it and they go even to the parliament, but they stay unattractive. But why our radical thought or our radical movement grow out of control? That is something for us to discuss. I'm sure the ideas of Salafi jihadists, the narrow understanding of Islam, going to continue with us. Many of us are going to carry on those ideas with them. But why should those ideas be attractive, be an alternative to our future? That's what we did not discuss in IISS conference in the last 10 years. The Arab world was and is still decaying. Bad governance, failed educations, unfair distribution of wealth, social injustice, which lead for our land to be a fertile land for radical ideas. In early 2011, history finally smiled upon the Arab states. When the wave of democracy that hit Greece, Spain, Portugal in 1970s, Eastern Europe in the late 80s, and Latin America, when that wave of democracy reached us, Arab youth raising their non-radical voices. There were no flag of ISIS, no flag of Al-Qaeda in Tahrir Square of Egypt or elsewhere. They were calling for freedom, for justice, equality, and happy life. Some countries in the Arab world, they were smart enough to accommodate those voices, like this country, Bahrain, Jordan, Oman, and they succeeded, and Morocco in particular. They succeeded in withstanding the waves. However, others resisted this wave. But with their resistance, they failed to sustain the old system that delusionally they thought it was stability. It wasn't stability. I like a term of a friend who called it the stability of the graves, the stability of fear. They failed to maintain that old system, but in the same time did not allow a new Arab order based on true democratic values to prevail, which resulted in a civil war and chaos, because the choice was either to let a new system emerge, but since we did not allow it to emerge, chaos as we see it today in Syria or in Libya and in Iraq too. This chaos is another branch of ISIS tree, which deepened and reached its peak last summer when it took over the second largest city in Iraq, Mosul. Taking over Mosul is not the most painful thing. It is a serious defeat for an Arab idea, but it's not the most painful thing. The most painful thing that the people of Mosul accepted ISIS. That is a fact that needs studying, needs looking at, that people chose ISIS as their future rather than the dreams they had for modernity in previous time. And I'm sure if the people of Mosul today were given the choice to return to the control of the government of Baghdad or stay under ISIS, maybe they will choose ISIS. That is something we need to discuss. When radical ideas like ISIS become attractive to the future of the Arab world. Thank you very much.